Hello and welcome to this video, which is number 7 in chapter 2, lesson 2 of the Yogavataranam. In this one we'll be looking at the verb us, from the root us, to be, and the subhashita, no equal, and a verse from the Geranda Samhita. Now to start off with this root us, to be, let me first share my screen with you. Now this verb us, the root us, and it says in the book, looking at page 35 now, starting at the orange heading, the verb us, to be. This is one of the most important verbs in Sanskrit. It is actually a second-class verb, but because it is so commonly used and also conjugated irregularly, you should memorize its paradigm now. By second-class verb, we've done the first, fourth, sixth, and 10th. A second-class verb means that the endings are joined directly to the root. For example, the ending in bhu, bhu becomes bhavati. Let me do that correctly for you, sorry. Bhu, bhavati. In the second class, you don't have this link vowel, this thematic, they call it, a. So us, the ending t joins directly to it, asti. And the same in the first person, the I. So it's not bhavami, well, you say bhavami with that link vowel a, but for I am, you join the me ending directly to the root. So you get asti and asmi. And it is irregular, as we will see. And the book says it is also often understood, that is to say, it's understood to be there rather than having to be said explicitly, but not written in sentences consisting of two nouns or a noun and an adjective. So if you want to say A is B, you can say A, B, asti, or just A, B. It will often be understood. So, no fool he. So he is no fool. We can say no fool he, which is a correct complete sentence with the verb is missing. Same kind of thing, much more frequently happens in Sanskrit and of course Pali. So looking at the conjugation of this verb, note that this root us, it's cognate with the Latin to be, esse, from which we have our word, for example, essence, which is the inner being of something. And rather like in Latin, and the languages deriving from Latin, it is irregular. But there is a certain pattern to its irregularity that you'll see. Now, looking at the that table of 9 words in the middle of page 35, let's go on to a new page. So the top left, asti, that's the third person singular. Asti. Cognate, of course, with the Latin est, is, and written the same in French, but pronounced Spanish es. And cognate with the English is. So our word is cognate with the Sanskrit asti, and even closer to it is the German for is, which is ist, ist. So asti, then ist, is, in Latin es, modern Italian in French but spelled est, in Spanish es, and so on. Assi. Now, we know that the characteristic ending for the second person singular is si, as in you are bhavasi. You are dancing. Nrityasi, that si ending. In asi, it would normally be asi, but irregularly, and this is one of the features of irregularity of this verb, it loses one of its s's. So it's just asi instead of asi, asi. And the first person, I am, is regular. Regular for a second class verb where you add the personal endings directly to the root. So asti and asmi are regular for a verb of the second class. Now look at the dual and the plural. The first thing you'll notice about those is that the initial vowel a is missing. So let's look at the dual. Third person is just sta. The second person dual is you two are. Again, sta. And the first person dual, that means the two of us, is swa. These endings, so it's as if it's a regular second class verb. As ta, standard ending ta, for they two. Standard ending ta, aspirated th, a subdotted h for you two, and va, as va. But all that happens is that the first vowel drops off. So it's regular apart from the loss of that initial a. And it's the same in the plural. So third person plural, they are santi. Second person plural, sta. And the first person plural, sma. Now note, if this were a fully regular verb of the second class, all that would happen would you get as, anti, as, ta, as, mah. However, because of the irregularity, the first vowel is lost. Rather like happens, for example, in Latin, where you get the infinitive esse and the sorry for the interruption, I just got distracted by a call. So the Latin esse to be, and we see the in the third plural, looking at Latin now, esse and sunt, which we see in the French être and sont, and the Italian essere, sono, and so on, where you have this loss of the first vowel reflected in Latin, Italian, and sont with a T, Latin, Italian, French, and other modern European languages. So that is the full conjugation of this verse. Oh, sorry, not this verse, this verb in the present tense. We'll now go on to look at what they call the mahakavyas, some important sayings. So I'll read from the text. According to the Advaita Vedanta school of thought, the mahakavyas are the, quote, great statements from the Upanishads, which express the ultimate equation of Atman, the individual soul, and Brahman, the universal spirit. So, number one, we're now looking towards the bottom of page 35. Number one is tat tvam asi. That very famous saying, tat tvam asi. Asi we have just done. That means you are, thou art. It's the singular, second person singular. Tat means, in fact, it's the same word as the English that, and it means that, tat. And tvam is the equivalent of our English thou, the singular you, and asi, then thou art. That thou art, tat tvam asi. So now you have a complete and correct, however short, complete and correct sentence in Sanskrit, tat tvam asi. Now you'll see that a point is being made about the words being joined together in script, in the Devanagari script. If we write tat on its own, we write it like that. Tvam on its own, the tua, see? Tvam and asi. Tvam asi. In writing, it's all joined up now. So this becomes, what's happening here? It becomes this t has to join to the following t. So becomes a double T. A double T on its t plus t equal, it's written like that. So just that, see, like this, just the top part of the t and the whole of the second t. That's it. So tat, that's the double T, but the double T now joins to the w. So this is now tat, tatwa. So tatwam, tatwam. Now this m, when we wrote the word on its own here, we put the virama under the m because it's the word ends in a consonant with no vowel, twam. But when we now join the next word beginning with a vowel, we write it following straight on. Tatwa ma and si. Tatwamasi. So it doesn't mean that one word is ma and the other word is si. It's tatwamasi, but as a pure convention of the script, they're joined into one. Now let's look at the second one. So let's write this more clearly now. Tatwamasi. And even this short sentence emphasizes the importance of treating Sanskrit, and the same applies almost as much to Pali. Try to treat it more as a spoken language, something you're speaking and hearing, rather than reading and writing. I know it's very difficult the way we're studying it here with our books and modern equipment and everything. But if you treat it more as a written language, you might say, what's this word here? Mussy. Well, mussy is not a word. It's tuam, new word, asi. If you just read it to yourself, or sorry, if you just hear the sounds of it, read it out loud to yourself, tuamasi, as three separate words, it'll be much more transparent. So do bear in mind that this joining of the words is purely a convention of the script. Tatwamasi. Now the second one, number 2. Aham Brahma Asmi, or Aham Brahmasmi. I'll write it in Roman script. So Aham I subdot it because it's followed by a word beginning with a consonant. Brahma. Asmi. And the asmi we've just had, that means I am. Asti, he, she, it is. Asi, thou art. Asmi, I am. So the words on their own be aham, brahma, asmi. But here, the short a, followed by a shortened verb, a of any length, followed by another a of either length, coalesce. So it becomes aham, brahmasmi. So it's purely a phonetic phenomenon that they coalesce into one word. In reality, they remain two words. It's just in the way they're pronounced and in the way they're written. They look like one word with this kind of as it were, being shared between Brahma and Asmi. And again, I've written this with just the macron, as I mentioned earlier. You know, among Western scholars, it's often written, could be written like that, with the circumflex to indicate that it's the coalescing of two vowels. Aham brahmasmi. And so I'm trying to get this to cooperate. Yeah, sorry, this is a bit clunky. I'm still trying to get used to the technology and how to work the iPad. So now, sentence number 3. I am that. That here being expressed as a masculine. So, soham. Sah aham becomes soham. So, sah aham. Now, as we've seen, a word ending in the a with visarga plus another word beginning with an a, that coalesces into o, and the initial a of the following word disappears, often written with an apostrophe like that. Soham. And what we write as apostrophe is often written like this, as in the Devanagari script, to indicate the dropped a. So sa aham becomes soham, usually written like that. And in Sanskrit, soham can be written like that, but I think in modern texts, I think it's right to say most modern texts, it's standard procedure anyway in modern print to have the sudha and then put this sign and then the hum. So that then indicates so, equivalent of apostrophe, so hum. So these Sandhi rules given in these boxes at the bottom of page 35. When a word ends in a consonant, the next word begins in a vowel, the two words are combined together. We've seen that with twam asi, written as if it's with twa ma si, and so on, and tat and twam being joined to tat twam, joined together in writing. And the other rule, if a visarga, that's the last expulsion of breath, that's the one that's written as our subdotted ah and as two dots in the Devanagari, ah or ich, if that's preceded by an ah but followed by another ah, then the two coalesce into o, The second a disappears and is replaced by what is called the avagraha. The avagraha just means taking away. It indicates that the a has been taken away, rather like the apostrophe, which replaces or represents a letter that has been lost, as it were, in writing. We now go over the page to number 36, what's called no equal. This is a subhashita, or a good saying, a well-spoken subhashita. Make it over on page 36 here. Subhashita. It's from the root, actually, bhash, from which we had to speak, from which we get the noun bhasha, meaning language or speech, and it's the word meaning a language. And we see it in Malay, for example, as bahasa, bahasa Indonesia, bahasa Melayu. The bhasha, so, and the past participle bhashita, and the prefix su, meaning good or well. So subhashita, literally, is something well spoken or a good saying. So it's the idea is it's a kind of proverb. Now you will find a translation of this at the top of page 368. All of the exercises have the translation, the key at the back of the book. 368, top of, you'll find the translation. I'll go through it with you. First, transliterating the Devanagari into English. So, I'll read it first. Nasti vidya samam chakshur, nasti satya samam tapa, nasti raga samam dukkam, nasti tyaga samam sukham. Once more. Nasti vidya samam chakshur, nasti satya samam tapa, nasti raga samam dukkam, nasti tyaga samam sukham. So nasti, that simply is na, not, plus asti. Na asti, there is not. So it becomes nasti. And you'll see it written as if it were one word in this first line of Devanagari on page 36. So nasti vidya samam chakshur. I'll put it with hyphens here, even though hyphens are not used in Devanagari. I'll use hyphens to split compound words. Vidya sam chakshur. Vidya, we have it in Pali as vidya and avidya. It's knowledge, and avidya, unknowledge, non-knowledge, which is ignorance. So vidya, it's from the root vid, meaning to see or to know. Vidya, I'll just put Pali vidya. Nasti vidya samam chakshur. Sama means equal to, and it's actually cognate with our English word same as, equivalent to, equal to. So vidya sama means knowledge equal, meaning equal, it's an adjective, compound adjective now, meaning equal to, equivalent to knowledge. So, and chakshu is an eye. By the rules of Sandhi, where you have a visarga preceded by a vowel that is not an a, so here it's okay, it's preceded by an u, followed by a voiced consonant that becomes an ur. Now it's chakshur here because it's treated as part of one string of words for the whole of that first line. And that's why it's not nasti vidya samam chakshu, nasti satya samam tapa. The becomes ur because the following consonant is a n. Nasti vidya samam chakshur nasti satya samam tapa. So nasti vidya samam chakur, there is no I equal to knowledge. So it's saying that the I that you can see with is not the equal, not as good as the seeing, or the seeing, the knowledge that you can get with knowledge. So your seeing by knowledge is superior to your seeing by the eye, is what it's saying. Nasti vidyasamam chakshur. Nasti chakshur, there is no I. Vidyasamam, knowledge equal to knowledge, as good as knowledge. Nasti satyasamam tapa. Sorry, nasti, there is not. Satyasamam tapa. Satya samam tapa. Here we have the a with visarga, but this now appears at the end of a line, the end of a word group, and so it stays as it is, tapa. Satya, truth, samam, equal, tapa. Tapa is a neuter. In fact, it's an S stem. That's why, for instance, the instrumental would be tapasa and so on. It's from the root tap, which the original meaning is to burn, to bear the heat of something. It's actually cognate with the word tepid, meaning warm, and for example with the Russian teplый, meaning hot. The original meaning was heat, and then by extension it became to mean kind of austerity and discipline, and so on. So there is no discipline, there is no or spiritual practice equal to the truth. Nasti satyasamam tapa. There is not truth equal tapa. There is no tapa. There is no discipline that is satyasamam, truth equal to or as good as truth. Next line. Nasti raga samandukkam. Nasti raga samam dukkam. And of course that is the same that we have in Pali as dukkha, because by standard phonetic mutation, dukkha becomes dukkha in Pali. So there is no dukkha, there is no suffering. Raga samam, greater than attach. It was translated as attachment here. Raga is actually cognate with our English word rage, and it becomes a B in Latin. So you have a rabid dog, a dog that's suffering from rabies, which is rage. And in modern Italian, you have rabbia, which means a rage, but it's from that same root. So raga, originally rage or passion, and sometimes used to mean attachment. So nasti raga samandukkam. There is no raga, there is no dukkha, there is no suffering equal to, as great as, raga, attachment or passion. And the last pada, that's the last half line, quarter verse. Nasti tyaga samam sukham. Tyaga. Sukham. Sukha, of course, the opposite of dukkha. Nasti tyaga samam sukham. Nasti, there is not. Sukham, any happiness. Tyaga samam. So tyaga, it's actually from the root tyaj. Tyaj means to renounce or to abandon. So, and the verbal noun tyaga, just leaving, abandoning, and then renunciation. So nasti tyaga samam sukham. Nasti sukham, there is no joy, there is no happiness. That is tyaga samam. That is renunciation equal, which is as good as great as, equal to renunciation. We will now look at the Gheranda Samhita 1.4, which on page 36, and that you will find translated in the key at page 409. There is no fetter equal to illusion. Page 409. So I will read it in Sanskrit twice, and then we'll analyze it. Nasti maya samah pasho, nasti yogat parambalam, nasti jnanat paro bandhur, nahankarat paro ripu. And again, nasti maya samah pasho, nasti yogat parambalam, nasti jnanat paro bandhur, nahankarat paro ripu. So again, it starts with a nasti, nasti, maya samah pasho. Again, I'll put the hyphens in to make it easier. So I haven't written that very well. Samah pasho. Maya, we know this one that's commonly translated as illusion. It's from the root ma, meaning to measure. We get matra, metron in Greek, meter, measure in English. So there is, and pasha is a fetter. It also means a snare or a trap. Very frequently in the old fables, the old Sanskrit fables, equivalent to the Aesop's fables, we find animals being caught in the pasha, in a trap or a snare. So there is no snare or trap. Maya sama, equal to, which means as bad as maya. Nasti yogat param balam. Nasti yogat param balam. The construction of this phrase is slightly different from the previous one. In the previous one, maya sama is a compound adjective, maya equal, meaning equal to maya. Here it's not a compound, it's two separate words. We have yoga, meaning yoga, and para, which is actually para, means beyond or greater than. It's cognate with our word far and further. So para means beyond or greater than. And here it's used with an ablative. So yoga, ablative yogat. So if something is yogat para, it means it is beyond yoga, goes further than yoga. How is it translated here? Just greater than. Okay. Literally, the exact meaning is beyond. Para, beyond. So, yogat para, beyond yoga, put now in the neuter. This is the neuter, nominative neuter. Balam. Balam is power, strength, force. So, nasti balam, there is no bala, there is no strength or power. Yogat param, beyond yoga, greater than yoga. So, nasti balam, there is no power. Param, beyond yogat, with the ablative, beyond yoga. But you'd always you'd never say param yogat, it would be, I don't think you would. Anyway, it's far more normal to put the yogat first, yogat param balam. So there is no power greater than yoga. Nasti jnanat paro bandhur nahankarat paro ripu. So nasti jnanat paro bandhur. Jnana, we know, means knowledge. In Pali, it's almost the same. Jnana. This is jnana. It's from the root jna, to know, which is, of course, cognate with our English kna, know, and the Latin, in Greek, gnosis, knowledge, and the Latin cognize, cognition. It's the same kna, Greek and Latin gna, Sanskrit jna, originally possibly jnya, but now it's commonly pronounced now, even by modern Brahmins, as a jnya, like jnya sound. So nasti jnanat paro bandhur. A bandhu is a relative. The root bandh, meaning binding. Bandhu, somebody who has a kinship, is bound to you, has this connection with you, is a bandhu, a relative. And it is a masculine ending in stem u, or a masculine word with stem u. So in the nominative standing on its own, it will be bandhu. But you see it's an ur here, bandhur. Nasti jnanat paro bandhur. It becomes an ur. Why? Because the following consonant in the same line or in the same word group is a n, is a voiced consonant. So it's bandhur na, not bandhur na, but bandhur na hankarat paro ripu. So nasti bandhu, there is no kinsman or relative. Jnanat paro, beyond, more powerful than knowledge. Again, jnanat is the ablative form, just as we had yogat param, stronger than yoga. Jnanat paro bandhur. So there is no relative, no kinsman more powerful than yoga. And paro, because on its own, it would be as a masculine singular para, but because the following consonant, the following word begins with a voiced consonant of b. The becomes o. That's where paro, nasti jnanat paro bandhu, and the bandhu becomes bandhur, because again by santi, the following word begins with a voiced consonant na. So nasti jnanat paro bandhur, nahankarat paro ripu. Nasti. Sorry. Pretty nasty when it wasn't there. It's just not nasty, but na. So instead of nasty, they've shortened it to na, with the asti being understood. So na hankarat paro ripu, which is na ahankarat. We'll come to that in a moment. So na hankarat paro ripu. And this paro again, greater than, ripu means an enemy. Note here, at the end of the line, nasti jnana paro bandhur, I'm putting the arrow there, bandhu and ripu belong to the same declension, they decline in the same way, they're both masculines ending in a short u. But the bandhu becomes bandhur because of the following n, whereas the ripu stays as an u with its subdotted h, with the visarga, because this now stands at the end of the verse. So nahankara paru ripu. Na ripu, no, meaning there is no enemy. Paro, greater than, more powerful than. Ahankara is the ahankara made into the ablative. Ahankarat paro, greater than ahankara. Ahankara, usually translated as the ego, but such a simply constructed word. It's from aham, meaning I in the sense of me, plus kara, which means from the root kri, meaning to make. Kara is a maker. So ahankara is an I maker. So it's the thing that creates the sense of I. It's the thing that creates the sense of the separate self. So the ahankara, the me maker, what makes me me, is the ahankara. So na aham then becomes by sandhi, lengthened to nahang. Nahankarat paro ripu. There is no enemy more powerful than the ego. So I will now read this verse again, slowly for you. Nasti maya samah pasho, nasti yogat param balam, nasti jnanat paro bandhur, nahankarat paro ripu. Now, looking at the sandhi rule that's given in the yellow box at the bottom of page 36, it says if a visarga, that's the or into what we write as the subdotted h at the end of a word, is followed by an unvoiced consonant, not totally true yet, but if it's followed by actually a b, followed by an unvoiced consonant, what's the other one? That was so by a s or a sh or a sh. It will remain unchanged. So just remains unchanged. But there's another rule to learn, that if the following unvoiced consonant actually is a t or a t, it will become, the h will change to an S. Might as well learn the rule now. You already know the rule without knowing that you know it, and I'll show you why. The root num means to bend, and then by extension to bow, as in a courteous or respectful bowing. And that makes the verbal noun namas. Just as from tap, to burn, we get tapas, literally burning, and spiritual practice. So we get namas. Now, normally a word cannot end in an S if it's on its own. So it becomes visarga. So written as a word on its own, it becomes namah. But if we put te at the end of it, to thee, to you, the namah te, because followed by te, becomes namas te. Namaste. That is how that word is formed. Namaste, homage to thee, a bow to thee. And we see the rule about the visarga remaining unchanged here. If you look at the first, we lost it. Yeah, here we are. Sorry, I forgot to put the subdot there. Look at that. In the first line, just under F, nasti maya samah basho. So the samah, the visarga of there for the masculine, basho is a masculine noun, masculine singular. So that remains unchanged as an because it's followed by a p. Maya samah basho. Right, I think that's all now for this clip, and we will resume in the next one on page 38 with the Sandhi review.